Welcome all to the Pro Football Radio Podcast. We are at episode 68. This is your co-host Jay Cheema with the pride and joy of Merrimack, New Hampshire, the Puma, and our senior contributor, Eric Burgess, The Burg. Fellows, welcome in. How are you?
What is happening, y'all? It's great to be back with the gang. I'm working a little bit on the road down at my parents in South Carolina, but I got all my gear here, ready to roll. I have some whiskey, have some IPAs. Let's get this show on the road.
After the week I just had dealing with home issues and going into the weekend, I thought it could just have been an absolute bad weekend with everything I dealt with. But boy, this week I am a happy camper with the NFL, and I can't wait to get to talking about it.
Listen, we're all in good spirits over here with the Patriots winning. So let's give you guys a quick rundown of what the podcast is going to be like today, essentially the content. We're going to talk about the Patriots' surprise win over the Ravens. We're going to discuss the MVP race. We're going to talk about are the Rams legitimate contenders or not. We're going to preview 5 big games next week, which is going to be Arizona versus Seattle, Tennessee versus Baltimore, Green Bay versus Indianapolis, Kansas City versus Las Vegas, Tampa Bay versus the Los Angeles Rams. And then we're going to finish out the podcast with a Take It to the Bank parlay, which we are 2 weeks in a row correct on. And then finally, Bullets with the Burg. But before all of that, I want to say happy birthday to my boy, Puma.
Thank you. Far too kind. It's weird celebrating a birthday in a pandemic, but that was kind of one of the main reasons of going down to South Carolina was to see my folks as a little birthday gift to myself. They retired down here probably, I don't know, maybe like 5 months ago, and I haven't seen them since then. So it's good to be with the fam, and thank you for the birthday wishes. Much appreciated. And once this pandemic's in the rear view, we all got to make our way to a bar and do a shot or 50.
Yeah, it's funny. I woke up today and I've been conditioned to wake up and the first thing I look at is my calendar and emails, right? And now, it's one of those things where I don't have to do that anymore. So I woke up and I just happened to do it out of habit, and my calendar was like Brendan's birthday, and I'm like, perfect. Thank you, calendar. Thank you, technology. But I also told Tara to remind me as well in case I forgot. So it was like a safety valve just in case I forgot and I don't look at my calendar. So happy birthday to the Puma. We are so happy for you, sir.
Thank you. And I'm not going to hold it against you with the calendar. I have to use Facebook to remind me when it's people's birthdays, and it kind of reminds me of maybe I need to do the purge of Facebook because I haven't talked to some of these people for 5 years. Yeah. So, yeah, it's all good.
I don't even have Facebook anymore. I used to have a Facebook account way back in the day. I don't even know if back in college, and I don't know if I can even get in and talk to some of my old friends, which truthfully, they're not friends anymore. They're just acquaintances, right?
They're just people with a pulse.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. What I always do, whenever I go on these drives back to Ohio or whenever I take a long drive, about halfway through, I'll start calling people I haven't talked to in years and start reconnecting. Oh, hey, saw your name in the phone. What's up? And sometimes it's super awkward. Oh, my God. Sometimes it's so awkward because it's people you've seen 3 or 4 times at a party in college. They're kind of cool. Some you thought were kind of hot. You're just trying to feel out. You know what I'm saying?
I'm surprised those people actually pick up for you. I know if I got a call like that, I would just ignore it.
I know, right? Well, listen, when you have 10 hours to kill when you're driving back to Ohio, you kind of get creative with this stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into the podcast. I know you, Mr. Burge, are super happy, just like I am, because the Patriots finally got a win. The Patriots on Sunday Night Football beat the Baltimore Ravens. 23-17 was the final score. Kind of a slugfest, kind of a sloppy game. So let me turn it over to you, Burge, and get your initial thoughts on what the Patriots looked like on Sunday night.
They finally made me happy this year. They finally won a game that people more or less were not picking them to win, including myself. It felt really good to watch that game.
Hey, who's the one person that picked him to win?
Take it to the bank. Hey, kudos to you, man. I wasn't as confident as you were going into that game, but watch as the game rolled on. I think I texted you at halftime, and I'm like, we're winning this game. Mm-hmm. The Patriots were controlling the tempo in that game. Outside of the first TD drive by the Ravens, I thought the defense really held up well against a stunning running attack that the Ravens have. you know, I take a lot out of this game. You got some, I mean, I call them emerging young stars. You got Damian Harris running the rock hard. I mean, he's continuing to just continue to dominate when they're giving him, consistent looks in that offense. And then there's Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers, made the team last year. He, in the preseason looked really good with Stidham, in his first preseason there. But he's really come on for this Patriots team, especially the last 2 weeks. I mean, you guys saw that touchdown pass that he threw to Rex Burkhead. I mean, did you guys also see his high school highlights?
I have not, but I heard he was a great high school quarterback as well.
He was a great quarterback, and that was one of the better throws we've seen all year out of any Patriots quarterback. Quarterback playing. So I'm excited to see what they can do going forward. I don't think that these two young stars are enough to significantly move the needle on this team, but it's something to feel good about. Going into the last weeks of this season. And then how about J.C. Jackson? Another interception. I think it's 5 straight games he's had a pick. I mean, granted, against the Jets, he didn't look good, and the pick probably wasn't, the best, so to speak. But, he continues to make plays, when they need him. I mean, especially that was at the end of the first half, if I remember correctly, and the Ravens were kind of driving there. So he effectively ended that drive and prevented any points going on the board. And that's huge. That's huge. They need that kind of contribution from these young players if they want to make any kind of noise going down the stretch here in the 2020 season. Offense played mistake-free football. They didn't turn the ball over. Cam Newton was even running hard when he was running the ball, lowering his shoulder into defensive backs, running people over. It just felt great to actually see them put together an effort like this against a team that they probably shouldn't have beat. And yes, the weather was probably a factor in this game.
There we go.
But man, it felt great.
Yeah, and listen, and I think that's the key here, and I think we all need to kind of take a step back. And I picked the Patriots to win this game, but I never envisioned it like this. I think the key contributor for the Patriots winning this game was the weather. I do truly believe if this game was played in dry conditions, we would have lost that game, right? But I think I'm not as excited as most people in New England are over this one because I have a fear that this week we might end up losing to the Houston Texans because, for as bad as I think Lamar Jackson, I'm not that high on Deshaun Watson as a quarterback. I do think he's going to have a field day with picking this defense apart. So I'm not like super high like everybody is, after this Patriots win. I just want to see a little bit more. And if we do win against the Houston Texans, which, we got to take that next step from being a bad team and, going to a team that's kind of like in the middle of the pack that actually beats people. I think that's what needs to happen next.
No, I agree. And, this doesn't move the needle for me in terms of what I actually think that this team is. I mean, to step in the right direction for them, that's for damn sure. You look back last month in October, if they were playing this game, they would have gotten blown out, in my opinion. Regardless of the weather, they would have gotten blown out. It's just good to see them starting to make some positive steps forward. I mean, the offensive line for the offense is elite. Those 5 guys up there, with Macy, Tooney, Wynn, Andrews, and Awanu. Did I say his name right?
Yeah.
Awanu on the right tackle.
Awinu, I believe. Awinu.
Yeah, Awinu. They're elite, and they were pushing the Ravens around on Sunday night, and this win, it keeps the playoff hope that you and I both have alive. There are realistic paths for this team to make the playoffs.
I think it's just you. For me, I don't want us to make the playoffs because it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. You saw how badly we had to struggle to win the last 2 games. Like we were losing to the Jets by 10 points, and they decided to throw the game away. Like this team getting into the playoffs is not going to do anything of significance. We're going to get our doors blown off by like maybe Pittsburgh or somebody really good, and I don't want that. I just want us to get a better draft position.
I mean,
you wanted the tank.
I don't really have a dog in this fight, but Jay, I remember we were talking offline and on my car ride down to South Carolina, and we were finally talking about how the coaching staff for New England really wasn't using Cam to suit his traits. Like they were trying to have him be an on-time throwing kind of quarterback, and I think we saw on Sunday what this offense was supposed to be, and they were able to establish a power running game.
Yeah, listen, I mean, at the end of the day, I think the Patriots played the best offense they possibly needed to play to win this game. Let's say, listen, Burge, if like let's say next week they go down to Houston and they start actually throwing the ball some more, and we start seeing some of the pass game start to develop, then I'd be more excited about the playoffs. But this team right now and how they're winning, like it's just barely getting by. It's like, all right, well, let's just not turn the ball over, let's play some decent defense, and let's just hope that they'll end up making some mistakes. And eventually you're gonna need to throw the ball in the NFL, and I think that's what's gonna cause us some issues down the road.
And I'm of the mindset that I want this team to compete every Sunday, and I want to have a chance to win every Sunday. I'm not one that wants to lose games for a better draft position or what have you. I want them to go out there. I want them to compete. And if that means they're going to get blown out in the first week of the playoffs, so be it. It gives me an extra Sunday that I get to watch the Patriots play football. And that's what makes me that's what I want to get up for. And I don't want to get to a point with this team where they're completely out of it and then you kind of lose interest in watching them. Like I want to be, intense into these games like I was the last 2 weeks watching them go. Chantel took videos of me walking around, pacing around my living room for this game, and I want that feeling to continue as long as possible.
I want the feeling to continue.
I want it to continue. You can't argue against that.
Yeah, Brendan, what's your thoughts on the Patriots getting to the playoffs and maybe seeing if they can make some noise?
I mean, it's 2020 in the playoffs. Like, I feel like all bets could be off at this point. I think really it's just going to come down to if they're able to keep establishing the power running game and use Cam to what best suits his game. He's not going to be one of those guys that's going to have to throw on time in precision routes. And I think they're just going to have to pound the rock and run the ball 30 times. And we saw Damian Harris really take over the running back one job, and I don't think he's ever going to give that back to anybody. Odds in the playoffs, maybe they squeak by the first round, but I don't really see them going any further than that.
Okay, I agree with you.
Burge, what's your thoughts on this upcoming game? Give us a quick preview of who you think is gonna win the Patriots and Houston Texans game.
Well, I think the Patriots are favored. I think 2.5 points right now.
Yeah, that's what I saw too.
Yeah, so going into the game, it's going to come down to, in my opinion, it's going to come down to what the defense does and, whether they can build off what they did against Baltimore this past week. Because obviously you're facing another mobile quarterback in Deshaun Watson. If Gilmore may play, I mean, I'd like to see him get back on the field. I know he's been dinged up, and I know there's some opinions of whether or not he's actually dinged up or not. But
he's probably not.
But if you get him back on the field, I mean, even without him, I have confidence in the secondary to be able to make do with with what they have. I mean, they're facing some good targets in Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller this week. I'm not really too concerned about running backs in Houston with, David and Duke Johnson down there. I think that they'll be able to handle that. As this team continues to get healthy too, I like what the defense can turn into. And the offense, if they can stick to their identity, which they seem to have found on Sunday night, I can't pick against the Patriots against a 2-7 team. So I'm going to pick the Patriots to win the game outright.
So just a quick little preview of next week's game for me as well. I'm not sure where I'm going to lean just yet. I think I need to see a couple more things this week play out. But I think I'll give you guys a text at the end of the week and let you know what I'm thinking. But I truly believe the Patriots might lose this game. Like, I have some serious concerns about this game, seeing how badly Joe Flacco was able to move the ball against us. And even as bad as Lamar Jackson played on Sunday night, he still had a hell of a game throwing the football-wise. I mean, they lost that game not because of Lamar Jackson. I truly believe that the coaching staff of the Ravens kind of outsmarted themselves, right? They kind of went away with some of the stuff that was the bread and butter. He ended up throwing for 249 yards, 2 touchdowns, 24 of 34, high completion percentage, and he looked fairly well. I mean, the one interception he threw, I think he just kind of had one of those moments where he's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna heave it downfield to Hollywood Brown, shut his ass up, he's in my ear all fucking week long, and see what happens. But I think for the most part, Lamar Jackson looked pretty good throwing the ball.
Yeah, I think what really kind of derailed derailed the Ravens real quick was, I mean, the game started going off the rails when they called that wildcat formation out of shotgun on short yardage, and Mark Ingram just couldn't handle the snap, and the wheels fell off the bus. Like, all you have to do is have Lamar fall forward. He was able to get 3 yards easily every time he ran forward for the sticks. That was kind of where the coaching staff outsmarted themselves and the wheels fell off the bus. But, I mean, real quick, I mean, on paper, I like Houston. I like their offensive weapons. But their defense is just so brutal, and they're so bad against the run. And if Damian Harris is able to replicate that kind of running that he did on Sunday against Baltimore, against this sieve of a defense that's anchored by, a J.J. Watt that isn't the J.J. Watt of old, I think New England could squeak by with the win. But squeak by, I think, is kind of a loose term. I think they could have themselves a day on the ground, and I think Cam Newton would be able to get a couple.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that makes sense. I think the path to the playoffs for the Patriots is very simple. You essentially need to beat the teams you got that you're better than, right? Obviously, you got to beat Houston. You've got. I think they can beat the Arizona Cardinals. I think they'll probably end up losing to the Los Angeles Rams, and then I think they're probably going to lose one of those games, either the Dolphins game or the Bills game. And I think you're going to be looking at somewhere in the 9-7, 8-8. Kind of mold. So we'll see what happens. There's a long season still to go. Burge, you want to get in any last comments on the Patriots before we move off?
Last thing I'm going to say in going into this Texans game this week is going to be whether or not the Patriots coaching staff gets in their way with the running backs. I mean, every time Damian Harris has been counted on to carry the rock 15, 20 times in a game, he's made the most of every carry that he's had. And if they decide to go away from that, whether or not Sonny Michel gets healthy, or if they decide to continue to run, either stick James White again back there to run the ball, or Rex Burkhead, who has been effective when he's in there, but he's not been as effective as Damian Harris, I think that they could get in their way there if they decide not to give Damian Harris a rock. Like, they just need to do it. And there were some times, I think in the Jets game, when they had Cam Newton run the ball, when it's like, give it to actually, it wasn't the Jets game, it was the Bills game when he fumbled the ball. Why are you not just giving it to Damian Harris? The guy has been running over everybody all day. Give it to him. And I could see the coaching staff getting in the way with that. And that's the only thing that I could think that could be their downfall against the Texans on Sunday.
Well, I think you might see it as getting in the way. I think I see it as they're going to need to try to develop something on offense besides the run game, besides Damian Harris. They're going to try in this Houston Texans game to see if maybe they can get Cam into some sort of groove, or maybe see if some sort of screens work. I think they're going to try to develop it, which obviously in our eyes looks like they're going away from the running game, but I think it's a necessary evil that needs to happen for them to be set up for a potential playoff run if they get down there.
No, I agree with you there, and all I want to say is if they're going to be dropping back and giving a standard handoff, whether it's an outside zone or a dive up the middle, give it to Harris. If they're going to work the screens in, they're going to work the RPOs in. That's fine. But if they're going to line up a standard handoff, I want Damian Harris back there to take it. That's all.
Yeah. All right, Puma, you ready to discuss some MVP candidates?
Oh yes, let's roll.
All right. Well, who do you think right now is the front runner for the MVP?
I think you could make a really good case for Kyler Murray to be at worst second place in the MVP clubhouse right now. I mean, throughout the majority of the season, all the talk was really between Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson. And, looking over the last couple of weeks, Russell Wilson has really fallen off and his stock has taken a huge dive. I mean, looking through the weeks 1 through 5, he only had 3 turnovers. All of them were interceptions, 19 touchdowns. All of them were through the air. He didn't have any on the ground. 73% completion percentage, 123 passer rating, and a QBR of almost 82. But since the Arizona Cardinals game, where the turnovers just started to pile up, He has 10 total turnovers, 7 of them were interceptions, 9 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 1 of them was on the ground, 66 completion percentage, 91 passer rating, but that was kind of boosted by an anomaly 128 rating against the 49ers. But QBR is 47.2. I mean, everybody going into this year was on the bandwagon of let Russ cook. Like, we got to let Russ cook. Well, we're now seeing what happens when Russell Wilson is pressing because his defense is just atrocious and he needs to have A-plus games every time. And he hasn't had that the last couple of weeks. Whereas if you look at Kyler Murray, his stock has been on the rise. He's been kind of building on each performance every week. And we saw a memorable play called everyone's calling it the Hail Murray against the Buffalo Bills with DeAndre Hopkins in the end zone. But I mean, prior to week 7, he's had 10 total touchdowns. 6 of them were on the ground, 65 completion percentage, 92 passer rating, 70.6 QBR. But he's been doing a lot of damage on the ground, 370 rushing yards weeks 1 through 7, averaging about 75 rushing yards per game. But since that Seahawks game, he's only had 3 turnovers, 7 touchdowns passing, 4 on the ground, 73% completion percentage, 115 passer rating, 72 QBR. His team is in the playoff hunt. They've been the playoff darlings in the offseason, and he's really staking a claim as to making a run in the MVP. And I think if they are able, them being the Arizona Cardinals, are able to handle their business this Thursday and march to a division title in the NFC West, which is, we can all agree, I think the hardest division in football, I think you're going to have a hard time not putting him as the front runner for the MVP category at this point.
Yes, no, I agree with you, man. I think if I had to pick right now who the MVP would be, I think I'm going to lean towards Patrick Mahomes. The guy obviously didn't play last week, so we didn't have his latest stats to go off of, but I do believe he's been playing out of his mind. He's accounted for like 20-some touchdowns and like 1 interception. But I think a close second, it's probably going to be Kyler Murray right now, man. I think what he's doing, man, like it's just absolutely phenomenal, man. I mean, even coming to the league, nobody thought he's going to be able to have this kind of success. So it's kind of nice to see him kind of proving people wrong. And I do think this upcoming Thursday, that game between the Arizona Cardinals and Seattle Seahawks might go a long way for his case. He'll have a national audience. He'll be able to make his case. So I think there's a lot of good things happening for Kyler Murray. But I think third on that list is going to be Tom Brady, right? I know you guys probably are rolling your eyes right now, but my boy Brady came out slinging against the Panthers the other night, had like 5 touchdowns. And I think for the year, his 26 touchdowns he's accounted for, and 7 interceptions with that one really bad game where he had 3 and 99 overall rating. So, listen, it's a close race right now, man. I'll still give Patrick Mahomes the edge right now, but Kyler's definitely coming as well.
No, I'm with you guys both on about Kyler Murray. I mean, can we just talk about how awesome that play was against Buffalo? I mean, I hate the Buffalo Bills, and I was so crushed when Stephon Diggs caught that touchdown, and then just watching that Murray throw and catch by D-Hop. Oh my God, I jumped up and down, screaming in my house, woke my kid up. I went nuts. No, but seriously though, I mean, would the Arizona Cardinals be where they are without Kyler Murray, behind center there? I don't think they were. They have some talent at wide receiver, but he's just shown me a lot this year, and I agree with your assessment. He's probably second in the race right now. You can't discount Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the guy's a baller. He's easily probably the best quarterback in the league. If you're going to pick your team to start with somebody that right now you're picking him, that's no doubt in anybody's mind. But let's not sleep on Aaron Rodgers here either.
I was going to say, I would have Rodgers third, and then Brady.
Too. I would too, and I'm not ready to write off Russell Wilson yet. I mean, obviously he's played bad the past couple weeks. That pick he threw in the end zone this past Sunday, when he had 30 yards of open field in front of him, maybe the Russ of old with a decent defense takes off with that, doesn't try to get the home run. But, I'm not ready to write him off. And, Mahomes probably the front runner right now. Murray, Rodgers are in the second tier. Murray, Rodgers, Wilson, second tier. I put Brady behind all 4 of them.
Call
me a hater.
Yeah, well, listen, obviously you're the biggest.
I mean, I don't
Brady
think
hater
it's
out there,
hating. I
but-
think I think it's going to come down to memorable moments, right? And you have, I mean, Mahomes he's on a loaded roster, and that's no shade against Patrick. I don't want his mom in my mentions, busting rank on his name, but I mean, Patrick's with Andy Reid. They're defending Super Bowl champions. I mean, he's really going to have to do something above and beyond what he's done the last 2 years in order to plant that flag as getting the MVP this season. Like, that's why I think Lamar Jackson was able to win last year, was he had the more eye-popping plays and the more dazzle and the more this, that, and the other thing. Whereas right now, I mean, if you were to look at the season as a whole up until November 17th at 7:15 in the evening, what's the one memorable play that stands out in the season right now? I think you're going to have a hard time talking to anybody out of the DeAndre Hopkins Hail Murray play right now. And I think that's going to resonate with voters. Into the flip side with Brady, like, it's not hate when it's a fact. He laid an egg against the Saints in a huge division game. And, if he's able to go out on Monday night and handle his business against the Rams and kind of twist that narrative of, hey, this team's rounding the corner, me and Mike Evans, we're finally getting on the same page right now, and we're going to, continue the march towards an NFC South title without, Drew Brees at the helm. That might help his claim with the MVP voters. But right now, I mean, the memorable play-wise, Murray's ahead.
Listen, all I could think about was Deshaun Watson watching the D-Hop catch, right? And probably just standing for hours looking out into a gray, like, rainy soaked day. Like, I just saw that image in my mind once he saw the D-Hop catch. But I think back to the Cardinals, man, and Kyler Murray. Listen, I am just so, like, I don't know, happy for the Cardinals and Steve Keim. What's his name?
Steve.
Keim? Yeah.
Steve Keim.
And I know it's hard to move off of a top, 5-10 draft pick as a quarterback in Josh Rosen, right? Because essentially you're admitting defeat or failure. And I know a lot of times, people in the NFL, especially GMs, will try to force a player in there for 5 years to prove themselves right. I mean, and I think it's just great to see the Cardinals moving on and Kyler Murray seeing his potential, and I'm glad that it's working out for those guys.
No, I agree with you. And just going back to the whole MVP discussion, I think it becomes more of a popularity contest for the quarterback position now. Obviously, every year it's a quarterback that wins it. And I think that might have something to do with the marketing for the NFL to try to market their players. But, I try to objectively look at it to say, who does more to help their team succeed? Without that player, would this team be as good as they are? And obviously you have Patrick Mahomes with that loaded roster there, and you have Kyler Murray in Arizona, who again has pretty good weapons. I mean, the only big name he has there is DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, you could make a case for, a 36-year-old Larry Fitzgerald and, a Kenyon Drake, et cetera, et cetera. But what it comes down to is I want the MVP award to be focused on a player that really is above and beyond for their team, to where their team would be in the basement if they did not have this player. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, then I think you're going to have to beat off Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara at that point, which I think, objectively, they should be in the top 5 of MVP voting, especially Kamara, because he hit offensive-wise, like, he put the Saints on his back because he was the check down Charlie, and he filled the Michael Thomas void when Michael Thomas was hurt / not playing nice with his friends in practice.
Absolutely.
And Dalvin Cook really kind of put that team on his back when they start off 1-5, and then they clawed back and they won a really awesome slugfest last night on Monday Night Football to keep themselves alive in the playoff hunt. But like you said, Burge, it's really just going to come down to it's a popularity contest at its finest, and unless there's some eye-numbingly stat that these running backs are going to be doing. I think it's really just penciling a quarterback here. It's just what name are you going to write down on the voting tab?
Is Adrian Peterson the last non-quarterback to win it?
I think so.
Yeah, I think he is.
I think so, yeah.
I can't think of any other non-quarterbacks that have won it in recent memory anyways.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's move on to some Los Angeles Rams discussion. And I was watching the Rams game against the Seahawks, and I think I came to a realization that the Rams are legit Super Bowl contenders. Just a quick recap for you guys. The Los Angeles Rams beat the Seattle Seahawks 23-16 on Sunday. Had a fairly decent showing, forced 3 turnovers. That was really the key to the game, 2 interceptions and 1 fumble. And I think when I was watching that game, I think the Rams have kind of went through this change into who they are over the last 2 years or so. The Rams used to be very, Sean McVay offense, kind of like dominant. Offense was their bread and butter, but now it's more the defense that's really coming alive for that team. They've kind of overhauled it over the last 2 years, and they have that, that classic can get pressure with just a front four and cover well in the back. That kind of, lends so much success to their team right now. In 8 of the last 9 games, all they've given up is a field goal or less in the second half. So it really speaks to how well they're playing on defense. I think the only games going forward that they're going to have a hurdle with is probably going to be the Buccaneers game and the Cardinals game. I think they're going to be able to beat the Seahawks again. But I think the one thing that really is going to be a thorn on their side going forward as well, if they are going to make a real legit Super Bowl run, is the Andrew Whitworth injury that happened on Sunday. Apparently he tore his MCL, damaged his PCL. There's not really a surgery for that injury. It's just more of a rehab timeline. There's a small chance he plays again this year, and they'll definitely need him. But I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of the Rams, man. I think they're going to end up winning the NFC West, which is the hardest division, and I think they're going to be somebody you're really going to have to keep an eye out when playoffs come around.
Yeah, I mean, coming from my standpoint here, they've been kind of inconsistent this year. In terms of winning games and showing up and losing games they probably should have won. I'm not ready to write off the 2 Cardinals games as wins for these Rams. I do think they are a legit threat to that division and that these games could go either way. Obviously, I think they're going to beat my Patriots, in a couple of weeks here on Thursday night. But anyways,
is that a Thursday night game?
I think it is.
Oh,
I think
nice.
It's either that's a Thursday night game or the Chargers is. I can't recall.
Mm-hmm.
But that division is by far the best division in the NFL this year. I mean, you got 3 teams that are 6-3, and then you got the 49ers, who are a really good team that has just been decimated by injuries this year. So, they are a legit contender, and I think they are going to make the playoffs, and they are going to make some noise in the playoffs. I'm just not ready to anoint them yet as a Super Bowl contender out of the NFC.
I mean, I'll say this much: the defense is Super Bowl contenders. I mean, it really comes down to, like Burge just said, the consistency factor, and what kind of Jared Goff are you going to get? Like when Jared Goff is hitting on all cylinders and they're living off of play action with the 3-headed running backs that they have, and then you have Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods and a Josh Reynolds kind of emerging in that offense, it's great. But when you see what what Brian Flores did for the Miami Dolphins on the defensive side of the football, basically recreating the Super Bowl defense that the Rams ran into 2 years ago, he does not look great. He looks average at best. And the Whitworth injury, we're going to get into a little bit more in the game preview. I think that's going to have massive ramifications, not only for Jared Goff, but just for this running game. They're in the hardest division. I like the defense. I'm not ready to anoint them overall as a Super Bowl contender just yet.
Well, I think that's the way that they're going to win is going to be playing good defense and running the hell out of the ball. I think that, with Todd Gurley being gone and having Cam Akers and Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson, they're doing a good job of just kind of mixing up the carries and getting fresh legs in there. And the way this team is going to win is going to be essentially play really good defense, run the hell out of the ball, and hopefully Jared Goff here and there can make some big-time throws to get you into position to score or maybe even score. And I think Jared Goff does have that. I mean, the guy, at one point did lead a very hot offense to the Super Bowl, and obviously they lost against the Patriots. But I do think deep down in Jared Goff, there is that ability to come up with those few plays here and there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, it's hit or miss with him. He can find it. Great. That'll be huge for that Rams team going forward. And, I kind of have faith in Sean McVay to kind of figure it out. If things don't go his way. Goff isn't playing top tier like like McVay knows he can. I have faith that McVay can kind of scheme his way through a game to win enough to get to have that potential to get that deep into the playoffs. I'm not ready to write them off, but I'm not ready to anoint them at the same time. That's kind of where I stand.
Okay, all right. Well, we're going to talk about the Rams later on in the show as they take on the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. But let's move on to some game previews. We have quite a bit of amazing games to talk about this week. The first one being the 6-3 Arizona Cardinals versus the 6-3 Seattle Seahawks, which could be a pivotal game in the NFC West. Puma, who do you like in this game?
So we're going to hit the cha-ching real quick. This is going to be my take it to the bank bet. I was kind of on the fence with a couple other teams, but Arizona Cardinals plus 3.5 points. Give me the 3.5 as a take it to the bank leg on the parlay. But I mean, real quick, I'm not going to beat a dead horse with Kyler Murray. He's playing phenomenal right now. No shade against the rushing ability for Lamar Jackson, but eye test wise, Kyler Murray looks like he has the quickest feet of any rushing quarterback in the NFL right now, and I think he's going to be able to keep plays alive against a stout rushing defense for the Seattle Seahawks. That's the one aspect of the defensive side of the football that the Seahawks team is good at, is stopping the run. He's going to have to do a little bit more through the air, but I think you're going to get a little bit more involvement from Christian Kirk and Andy Isabella, because this Seahawks defense is absolutely brutal. They're 32nd overall in total defense right now, and they can't stop a runny nose. The Arizona Cardinals defense, they're going to have to really figure out a way to limit Tyler Lockett, or at least bend but don't break, because their previous matchup a couple of weeks ago, they really contained DK Metcalf. Patrick Peterson was on him the whole game, limited DK to 2 receptions for 23 yards. But we all know, especially in the fantasy football aspect of things, that Tyler Lockett went nuclear, 15 receptions, 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Kirkpatrick was on him most of the game. They're going to have to figure out a way to take the security blanket away from Russell Wilson in that aspect of things. And the Seahawks side, I mean, Russ is Russ, but he's been pressing lately. He hasn't looked that great. They're not going to, more than likely, they're not going to be they're not going to have Chris Carson's services. I think he's going to miss this week with a foot injury. They might be able to get Carlos Hyde back. And Alex Collins, dancing Alex Collins from his Baltimore Ravens days, he looked pretty serviceable in the backfield. But it's really this defensive side of the football that's got me worried. The over-under is 58. Give me the over in this game. I don't really like either secondary, but I have Arizona winning outright.
What kind of score are you looking at? You thinking maybe like a
high scoring. I mean, if you look at the last matchup, they combined, especially including overtime,
like
70 points.
Right?
Yeah. So I think that, I know 58 is a high number, but I like the over in this game. I think it's going to be 30-something each side.
All right. Burge, who you got win this game?
I like Arizona to keep it going, building off that momentum of that last second win against Buffalo this past week. Seattle is clearly reeling, licking their wounds after the last 2 weeks. The offense hasn't looked the same. The defense has looked exactly the same, atrocious.
Let Russ cook.
Let Russ cook. I'm not as down on what.
Russ is cooked.
Yeah, right. I'm not as down on the Arizona secondary as you came off there a little bit, Puma. I love me some Budda Baker, and I love me some Patrick Peterson back there. Don't sleep on Byron Murphy, the corner there as well. I love this Arizona team, and I know I've kind of flip-flopped a little bit between them and Tennessee this year in terms of who I'm going to root for if my Patriots get knocked out. Sunday night, Arizona kind of won me over with how gutsy they were to kind of close that out, with the exception of the play calling on one of their last drives before all that happened, with them coming out throwing the ball with 4 minutes left. So I like Arizona here, and again with you, I would smash that over. I think you're looking at a real high scoring game here. I wouldn't be surprised if it got to be 42-31. Arizona pulling it off. don't let me put any faith in that Seattle defense to stop anything at this point.
Yeah.
Did you see the highlight of Jamal Adams making a business decision in the red zone? Like he completely whiffed on a tackle. Pete Carroll had to get into his face, which is saying something because Pete Carroll doesn't get into anybody's faces. But no, just the secondary's cooked. Secondary being for the Seahawks. Nah, I put a fork in them.
Well, I think, Puma, I'll agree with your original assessment that right now Kyler Murray has the quickest feet in the NFL. And I think the only differentiating thing between him and Lamar Jackson is I think Lamar Jackson has better top-end speed because once Lamar Jackson gets going, it's lights out. Nobody's catching him on the field, unless maybe a DK Metcalf. But still, once Lamar starts going, it's a wrap, right? But I think you're right in the fact that Kyler Murray's probably quicker and shiftier, like in those tight quarters. But listen, I'm with you guys, man. Listen, the Cardinals seem to be the real deal. The only bad loss they really had was against the Lions. Looking back on it, they've had 3 losses. The other 2 being against the Panthers, which I think are a sneaky good team. The Panthers had the Kansas City Chiefs on the ropes a few weeks ago, and the Dolphins is a team that lost to as well. And I think the Dolphins are a good team. But as much as I say Seattle is in trouble, and we've all kind of talked about this, I just can't see Seattle being swept by Arizona, man. Like, I think this is when great players like Russell Wilson kind of really rise to the occasion, and we all get it that Seattle is a one-trick pony. It's essentially Russell Wilson or bust. But I do think this is the night that Russell Wilson's going to rise to the occasion. I think I'm going to go with Seattle 28-24.
I think a lot has to happen with, is Chris Carson going to be healthy for them in this game? I mean, DJ Dallas has looked little decent, playing for them, but he's not Chris Carson back there for the Seahawks. They need that element to their offense to really succeed. So, I mean, if he's healthy out there, you're looking at a little bit of a closer matchup, in my opinion.
Yes, sir. All right, let's move on to the 6-3 Tennessee Titans versus the 6-3 Baltimore Ravens. Puma, who do you got win this game?
God,
I know, right? Seriously.
Gun to head, Tennessee. Like I just offensive weapons wise, I like the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee goes into this game as 6.5 point dogs in a over under of 49. But like on the Tennessee side, they're coming off a huge loss to the Indianapolis Colts for a division matchup. Ryan Tannehill looked pedestrian, 19-27, 147 yards, 1 touchdown. Derrick Henry, air quote, quietly had a 100-yard game on 19 rushes, but didn't find the end zone. But I think this is going to be the kind of spot where they can possibly get right. I mean, the defense, it shows that the defensive side of the football for Baltimore, I should say, it shows that they really miss Calais Campbell to stop the run. I think if Calais Campbell was starting on Sunday versus New England Patriots, it might have been a different game on the ground game for the Patriots side of the football. But Calais Campbell, he's a great run stuffer, and he wasn't there. He might miss this game again with a calf strain. We'll have to monitor the practice reports. But I think if Calais misses, they'll be able to build off the play action. They'll be able to get into a groove where Ryan Tannehill succeeds. And I think, you'll have Derrick Henry rumbling for another 100-yard game and maybe sniff the end zone one time and not get vultured by Jonnu Smith. But to that extent, I know, right? Which I'm not complaining because I'm a Jonnu Smith manager. But to that extent, I think you'll be able to get Ryan Tannehill into a groove and get A.J. Brown into space and let him do his thing. I mean, the Baltimore side, I think going into Sunday night against New England, their aerial attack was average at best. And I'm using average at best in a very loose term because they really haven't had success through the air. And then they're going into this game against Tennessee without their best blocking tight end, and Nick Boyle. We all heard on the microphones around the field that his knee went crunch when it got hit when he caught the football. He's going to be out. They only have the replay's worse. Like, oh my God. Yeah. But, Nick Boyle's out. They only really have one healthy tight end in Mark Andrews, and a lot of this offense is based on the tight end. So, I mean, this might be the spot where Hollywood Brown gets some run because the secondary for Tennessee is atrocious. Like, oh my God, they're terrible. They might be a step higher on the defensive metric list of the Seattle Seahawks. But I mean, to the eye test, they are just bad. But I think this might be the squeaky wheel game for Hollywood Brown. But with all that being said, I still like Tennessee winning this game. I'm definitely going to bet them at 6.5 points. So give me the Titans in this matchup.
All right, Burge,
I'm
who you
gonna
got?
hit the cha-ching on this game right here.
Oh!
Take it to the bank, baby.
Can I just say, Birch, real quick, when you say take it to the bank, you sound like the PFR podcast version of Dick Vitale.
I love it.
It's great,
Take
and that's
it
no
to
shame.
the bank.
Yes, that's what I'm here for, Burge. Tell us why it's a take it to the bank bet.
Look, I'm taking the Titans here on the money line, and I like them to right their ship this week. The Ravens are reeling on defense. They have, like you outlined, Puma, multiple injuries. They lost another defensive tackle and another cornerback Sunday night against the Patriots. And let's be honest, Derrick Henry is far better than Damian Harris. And I just like that Tennessee offense is going to get back to what they do. Derrick Henry's going to run the rock. He's not going to get poached this week, I hope, from my fantasy team's standpoint.
Sorry, Burge.
I know, but I think that running attack is going to open up. Tannehill's a better thrower than Cam Newton was, and AJ Brown's better than any target on the Patriots offense. I just like them to get back on track on offense, and let's face it, Lamar Jackson has regressed this year in terms of that offense and everything that he does. He's good for that turnover game. No weapons really truly scare me on that offensive side of the ball outside of the running attack. And if Tennessee's defense shuts that down, then they have nothing. And obviously losing Nick Boyle is a big piece. Give me the Titans here to right the ship. They were my Super Bowl pick out of the AFC at the beginning of the season. I love what they're doing down there. With Vrabel, a former Patriots guy. And I love Derrick Henry. Give me some Derrick Henry. Please pound the rock. 2 touchdowns would be nice. I'd love that. And just give me the Titans here money line. 100%. Ravens are frauds in my eyes.
Okay, all right. So listen, I really don't know what to make of this Tennessee Titans team, man. Like, they've been so up, so down. Like, I just don't know what you're going to get anymore. I thought for sure they were going to blow the doors off of the Indianapolis Colts, but obviously that didn't happen. And one of the main reasons that didn't happen was because they had a bunch of miscues on special teams, which is absolutely killer for them.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
my God,
And
yes.
looking at it objectively, like, I think at this point, any more misses, field goals, or extra points are on Vrabel just as much as they're on Gostowski. Like, this Patriot loyalty thing he's got going on, which is great and fine for Gostowski, but he's going to end up costing you a really big game down the road, and it's going to happen, right? Now, I think on the other side, the Ravens, we talked about it in the A block. Listen, I think we know who the Ravens are now, man. They're a good to sometimes great team. They'll show up and look like all-world beaters, but for the most part, they're kind of middle of the pack. I think the stat that's the most troubling is, including playoffs, they are 0-6 whenever they're trailing by 10 points. So if the Tennessee Titans get up big on them, like 10 points or 14 points in the first quarter or in the first half, it's basically a wrap, right? But I think this is a crucial game for both teams because they're both 6-3, deadlock, and there's like 6 other teams that are deadlocked at 6-3 as well. So this is going to be a critical game for the playoff seeding, especially for Baltimore, because Baltimore is looking up at a 7-0, 9-0 Steelers team now. So they're like 3 games behind.
And the Browns won.
Behind. The Browns are 6-3 as well. So I mean, this is a critical game for the Ravens, and I think because of that, and just my, and you're right, Puma. This is like barely like I had to like flip a coin for this, but when I really thought about it, I do like Lamar Jackson barely more than Ryan Tannehill. I think Ryan Tannehill is I think he's even worse than Lamar Jackson, truthfully. So give me Lamar Jackson and the Ravens 32-20.
Wow. Real quick, not to get bogged down in the Ravens, but like, do you guys think, like, quick hit on this one, is a lot of the issue for the Ravens? Do you guys think it's the offensive, like Greg Roman, like kind of going out there trying to prove that Lamar Jackson is more than just a running quarterback? Like, do you guys think that's part of the problem, or is Lamar really taking that step back this season compared to the year prior?
I think it's your first statement, because Lamar at some points this season has thrown the ball well. For God's sakes, he threw the ball really well against the rain and the defense on Sunday night. I thought for the most part he had a great game thrown, but I do think the Ravens coaching staff is getting in the way here, right? I think they kind of went away from the run a little too early, and then they kind of went back to it on Sunday night. I think there might be someone who said that the Ravens coaching staff is getting in the way.
What do you think, Birch? Coaching staff problem, or?
I think it's a little bit of both, like you guys have both said here. They're obviously trying to throw the ball with him. I think he's a little bit limited in terms of throwing the ball. Yes, he's made some good passes, but let's be honest, he's a running quarterback first and foremost, and that's how they won last year, was running the ball with him. At the same time, with in terms of the coaching staff with this team, you look at the fourth down play that they ran out against the Patriots in the rain Sunday night. You put Mark Ingram back there to take a snap. Like you're not putting your team in position to succeed, and I think that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the 7-2 Green Bay Packers versus the 6-3 Indianapolis Colts. And before I let you go, Puma, I think I can say this for all of America: when the Green Bay Packers were down by, like 4 points or like 7 points, whatever it was, late in the fourth quarter, we were all thinking about that guy that put $90,000 on the Green Bay Packers to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yep. They were cardiac kids. This was one of the play down to the competition games of the year. I think the Dallas Cowboys Steelers game is still ahead in the clubhouse of why you don't play down the competition. But no, Green Bay, they barely got out of Lambeau alive in that game versus Jacksonville. Jake Luton, he looked decent at times.
Yeah.
Like, he looked okay in that offense. James Robinson, one of the darlings in both fantasy and real life football this year, undrafted rookie, and really took the reins in this running back core, rushed for 100 yards. With all that being said, I like Indianapolis in this game. Indy is going into this matchup right now as 2.5-point favorites. The over-under is 51. With all that being said, Indianapolis on the defensive side of the football, they are a top 5 unit in the NFL. I think they're second overall in total defense, second in rush defense, and I think fifth in the passing defense kind of metrics as of right now. The defense is stout. Nyheim Hines, I think the Indianapolis Colts really found their lead running back in that matchup versus the Tennessee Titans on Thursday night. He absolutely smashed for 12 rushes for 70 yards and a touchdown, 5 receptions, 45 yards, and 1 touchdown through the air. And Green Bay is just absolutely horrid against the rush. Like I said, they gave up 100 yards to Jacksonville, but you can rewind the tape through the previous weeks, and they've just been bad against the run, and they were bad against the run last year too. The only thing, and we've said it every time we've previewed a Indianapolis Colts game, is can Phillip Rivers limit the dying quail throws into the secondary? Yep. If he's able to limit that, and maybe we saw the breakout game from Michael Pittman, get Pittman in space, short routes, maybe T.Y. Hilton will actually find a semblance of himself in this game too. Keep everything short. Don't put a whole lot on Phillip Rivers to throw the ball down the field. I think they can kind of dink and dunk their way to the end zone against the Green Bay Packers. Give me Indianapolis in this matchup against Green Bay.
Burge, who you got in this game?
I've been on the bandwagon of Indianapolis as a fraudulent team all year. They continue to disappoint me with that take, as they keep winning these games. But what it comes down to is that Green Bay offense for me. I like Rodgers-Adams connection. They're going to get Allen Lazard back this week to go with Valdez-Scantling on that offensive side of the field. And, let's not discount the backfield with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams there. Again, it comes down to what you said about Phillip Rivers, too, throwing ducks up there. How many picks is he going to throw against Green Bay here? Against Green Bay here. I can't pick against Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and that offense against a Phillip Rivers-led offense with Michael Pittman and T.Y. Hilton there, who's been a shell of himself this year. So give me Green Bay here. I like them. I like them 31-21 in this game. I can't pick against Aaron Rodgers. I'm having a hard time doing it. Yes, he's laid some eggs, but I can't do it against this Indianapolis team. I still think Tennessee wins that division.
All right, Jay, you're the deciding factor. Who you got? Did we lose Jay? Oh, okay. Talk amongst ourselves. So, for those of you that a little peel behind the curtain, we're all recording through.
I just got back. Sorry, I had to
through Clean Feed.
I had to drain the dragon.
And the host of the podcast needed to take a potty break, and we didn't realize. So there was a good round of dead air.
It's all right.
So,
we can edit that out. Listen, when you gotta drain the dragon, you gotta drain the dragon, bro.
You know what, Jay? I think you actually need to leave this part in because it's like the comic aspect of the podcast.
Okay. All right.
So you're the deciding factor. We're split down the middle right now. Who do you got in this game?
So listen, I think I'm going to lean Indianapolis 31-24. And listen, I think the Packers, man, I think the one thing we can say this year about any NFL team is there really is no dominant good NFL team, right? Like I know the Steelers are 9-0, but there's a couple of games where they could have lost as well. So just like that, the Green Bay Packers, they're 7-2, sure. They got a great record on paper, but I do think they're a little bit on the fraudulent side as well. I think the good thing out of Sunday's game against the Jaguars was Aaron Rodgers got some more balance on offense. I mean, it wasn't a Devontae Adams train show. It was along the lines of Marquise Valdez Scanlon. That's what it is. I just have notes here, MVS, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to say his name, right?
It's a Scrabble game. You didn't know we do Scrabble on the podcast too?
But I think Indianapolis is going to be my dark horse team out of the AFC that people need to watch out for. Just like I think the Rams are emerging, I think the Colts are going to start emerging here late as well. They're coming on strong, man. And I think watching that Tennessee game, especially that 34-17 beatdown they had, like they're just a far more balanced team than Tennessee is, right? And a quick little stat out there I'll throw at you guys. Did you guys know the Colts have won the last 20 of 24 games versus Tennessee? Like they've absolutely like hosed the Titans. So, I did
not know that.
I didn't know it was that number. I just remember the Reggie Wayne, Pat McAfee troll job at the NFL draft in Nashville 2 years ago. Find that on YouTube. You're welcome.
Yeah, they've absolutely just dominated the Titans then. And I think Naheem Hines is filling in very nicely for Marlon Mack. I mean, he ended up with 115 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. And if somehow Jonathan Taylor can provide just a little bit more in what has been a really disappointing start to his career, I really like Indianapolis starting to catch some steam here. I think I'm taking Indianapolis because that defense is going to cause all kinds of hell for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Indianapolis 31-24.
Can't wait to gloat next week. Let's go.
Here we go. Here we go.
All right, let's talk about the 8-1 Kansas City Chiefs against the 6-3 Las Vegas Raiders. But before we get to that, did you guys hear about that little jab that Andy Reid took at John Gruden about taking his team and circling the stadium after their win last time?
Yeah, I did see that while I was doing my notes last night, and I was saying to myself, I mean, Andy Reid off the bye is legendary because he is. I don't think if he's lost off the bye, it's like single digits. Mm-hmm. Like he hasn't done much in the losing category, and now you add the nugget of, hey, I'm a pissed off Andy Reid off the bye. Like, good luck, Chuck, to the Las Vegas Raiders. I love John Gruden though. Like I would have done the same thing driving around Arrowhead though. So I can't judge too hard. But
I just find it funny. It's so John Gruden,
Oh, for sure. He's driving around Arrowhead while he has to write a check to Park Avenue for a mask fine. What did he get fined? Like $150K because he can't just figure out to put a mask over his fucking face on the sideline.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. How about you, Birch? You got winning this game.
Oh, give me Kansas City in this game. Yeah. They're probably the class of the AFC at this point. They're defending Super Bowl champions. They're coming off a bye. The Raiders did beat them the last time they played them, but it's very hard to beat teams in the NFL twice in one season. Mm-hmm. And the firepower on that Kansas City offense, I'm not a big believer of Andy Reid. I never have been, and yes, he won a Super Bowl last year, but I'll die on that hill. I've never been a big believer in him.
You're going to be the lone one on Pickett's charge over there, Burg.
So what did you say? Back up. Did you say you don't buy into Andy Reid yet?
I've never liked him as a coach. The guy can't manage a clock to save his life, and I think that is a big aspect of a coach in an NFL game. And up until he had Mahomes as his quarterback, was notorious for choking in the playoffs because of bad clock management. And I'll die on that hill. Come at me all you want. I'll die on that hill about Andy Reid. I'll die on the hill.
Yeah, but I mean, put it this way: if Belichick didn't have Brady, he would also be in that same situation as well. He'd be losing games.
You're probably right, but I'm also just as critical of Bill Belichick right now as I am of Andy Reid. And obviously, I'm biased. So, what's that?
I don't know. You make out with Belichick quite a bit.
Wow.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Wow.
At Burge the goalie. At Burge the goalie for your Andy Reid defense tweets. At Burge the goalie.
So what is it going to take for you to come around on Andy Reid? Is it going to be, 3 more championships? 2 more?
5 more.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Wow.
Quite the high.
No,
Wow.
seriously though. Like I can't get over the whole cheeseburger takes that he comes out with after he went. I'm gonna go get a cheeseburger.
What's wrong with that?
No.
It's better than the stupid takes Aaron Rodgers had about scotch or whiskey or whatever he talks about.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with scotch.
Nothing wrong with
helps.
that. No. No, but at the end of the day, give me Kansas City in this game big. The offense that they have going for them. Give me them 35 to 21 in this game. I coming off a bye, I'm not going to pick against them.
I think you're spot on. I had the same exact score. I mean, actually, I had it kind of close. I had 35-17. Yeah, there's no need to spend more time on this. It's going to be a blowout. I think Kansas is going to come out. They're going to really try to impose their will. I don't think Derek Carr is going to be able to go, point for point again with Patrick Mahomes. So it's going to be a bloodbath on Sunday night. So let's move on to the.
Whoa! Hang on. Real quick, I'm with you. I got Kansas City winning. Mm-hmm. I'm not in the camp of it's going to be a bloodbath.
Okay.
I actually like Vegas to cover the 6.5 points, only because we saw that they were able to come out of the gates hot on the road in Arrowhead, going over the top with Henry Ruggs, and this was the one of a couple of games this season where Derek Carr looked like a person that was hijacking Derek Carr, and the real Derek Carr was in somebody's trunk in the garage in the parking lot. But I mean, he came out firing all cylinders, and a big thing to watch is Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher on that Kansas City Chiefs offensive line. They were placed on the COVID-19 list. They think right now that they're just close contacts. They might be able to get off in the next couple of days. But the head doctor for the NFL has come out and said that a lot of those close contact people are now coming back and turning positive. So there is a possibility they may miss this game. And if that's the case, I think Max Crosby for the Vegas Raiders would be able to have a day against Patrick Mahomes in the pocket and wreaking havoc. And another thing too, and call it just tinfoil hat-ish, but let's look at the Vegas factor. You're going to have Vegas at home, the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe Travis Kelce's feeling a little party boy-ish on the strip, wants to spend a night out, comes back, is a little hungover, misses a couple of routes, causes a couple of key turnovers. I like Vegas covering the 6.5 points this week.
Are
Final thought.
Even allowed to be on the strip right now?
Yeah, it's Vegas. I think they're one of the last bastions. They opened up. You can go back. I think they opened up bars the week that the Raiders had their first home game. So like the bars have been open since then, and it's kind of business as usual down there in the desert. So who knows? Maybe a couple players. Maybe Tyreek Hill wants to blow off a couple of a little bit of steam, have a couple of shots, a little table dancing. You know what I'm saying? Sin City, baby. Sin City in a pandemic. Why not?
Wow. Yeah, I guess you're right. It is Las Vegas after all.
My final thought is I want CEH to get in the end zone. That's all I care about. We'll get into that a little bit later.
Oh, God. Okay.
All right, final game of the week, the Monday Night Football game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Los Angeles Rams. 7-3 for Tampa Bay, 6-3 for the Rams. Puma, who you got winning this game?
God, I don't feel confident in either team. Like, this is another one where I've had to do like the deep sigh and like compose my thoughts. I'm going with the Bucs. I don't feel that confident in the Buccaneers in this game after what we saw in prime time a couple of weeks ago against the Saints. And especially because Ali Marpet on that offensive line, he may miss this game with a concussion again. So that offensive line is going to be in flux against an Aaron Donald, anchored defensive unit. And, Jay, you hit the nail perfectly on the head in the rundown in the A block that the Rams defense is elite. Like they are shutting everything down. They're like the no-fly zone. I think Burge, you tagged us in a post with Aqib Talib on like the defensive secondary rankings, and the Rams are number one in the league right now. I think they'll be able to contain, Mike Evans, who hasn't had that solid relationship with Brady yet. We saw a couple of times in the end zone where he looked a bit frustrated. Brady looked a little bit frustrated at times, and the lack of connection. I believe they finally were able to connect for a touchdown against the Carolina Panthers on Sunday, but it hasn't been an easy going for these two guys through 10 weeks of the NFL season right now. Like I said, I don't really feel that confident in Jared Goff as a quarterback right now, especially with Andrew Whitworth being out on the offensive line. I just think that's going to be a big blow and keep the game close. Maybe Jason Pierre-Paul is able to wreak havoc in the backfield for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like the Buccaneers in this game. They're 3.5-point favorites. The over-under is 47.5 points. I kind of like the over in this game too, but give me the Bucs at 3.5.
Nice. How about you, Burge?
I echo your sentiment about the Rams defense there, Puma. Brady in the last years of his time in New England, and even now down in Tampa Bay, you pressure him, you're gonna make some noise on that defensive side of the ball. I like the Rams secondary with Ramsey back there. It's shutting down Mike Evans. Antonio Brown. He hasn't shown me really a whole heck of a lot yet. I mean, he had a couple of nice catches against Carolina last week, but I'm not as high on the Carolina Panthers as you guys were earlier on. Give me the Rams in this game. I like it. I like it to be close. What did you say the over/under was again, Puma?
47.5.
I see. I still like the over in that game.
Right.
I like this. I like this to be like a 31-24 finish for the Rams, and I think that the Rams defense is going to cause a heck of a lot of havoc for that Brady-led offense. They're still going to score, but I think the Rams defense is going to do enough to win the game for the Los Angeles Rams there.
Now, America, 2 weeks in a row. Hopefully you guys are paying attention to the Take It to the Bank parlays, because we are 2-0 right now. And if you would have taken our advice and taken out a second mortgage last week and put it on essentially our parlay, you'd be a very rich person right now. And I think I'm going to go ahead and ask you to take that same money and put it on this game as well, because I do believe the Rams are going to win this game, and that's saying a lot coming from a Brady lover over here. But listen,
excuse me while I laid down on my bedroom floor at my parents' house having a heart attack.
I am an esteemed, professional podcaster. Okay,
Jay, can I just say, when you said I am esteemed professional podcaster in our group chat to figure out what the best bets are this week, I was in line getting a COVID test in South Carolina, and my car was reading everything off, and the lady shoving the stick up my nose was like, "What did your truck just say?" And I'm like, my colleague Jay, my brother, is we have a football podcast, and he's actually going against his boy Brady, the GOAT, for the 1 week. So I don't really know how I feel about that.
I call it like I see it, okay?
Kiss of death right here. There goes that parlay.
I am excited about the Buccaneers.
You said that last week.
Hey, it's about time the Pats finally hit. You're 1 for 4.
Listen, I was excited about the Buccaneers bouncing back and hanging 46 on the Panthers. And listen, I've already said I think the Panthers are an up-and-coming decent team. They're not just no pushover, right? They were just like 3 points away from being the Kansas City Chiefs 2 weeks ago. And I think in that game, Teddy Bridgewater outplayed Patrick Mahomes at a better QBR. And the Buccaneers went into Carolina and hung up 46 points. But I think it could have been much worse, man. They left like 21 points off the board, right? They had 3 bad red zone drives that kind of stalled out with some, miscommunication, some bad play calling, a couple of bad throws by Brady. That could have been like a 65-ish kind of game, and they really came with full force. But I do think this week, especially with how much we've talked about the Rams in the A block, and I'm not going to rehash all that, but I do think they're going to be able to get pressure on Brady, and obviously, which I don't buy into the whole notion that you put pressure on Brady, he sucks dick. I mean, that's like any quarterback that isn't mobile, like whether it's Peyton Manning or, any quarterback that can't move, Big Ben, you put pressure on them, that's what happens in the NFL, but that's besides the point. But I do think that they're going to erase, the Rams are going to erase Mike Evans. Jalen Ramsey is going to be on him, and I think that's going to be kind of like, taking him out of the game. It's going to come down to Brady relying on Godwin, Gronk, and AB. Well, if he's on the team on Monday, we'll see if it's something that he can make it to Monday. But he is going to have to look for Godwin, Gronk, and AB, and we'll see if he can get some connection with those guys. And I think the one thing about the Buccaneers that I'm also concerned about is the defense. They've taken a few steps back the last couple of weeks. They're not at that elite level they were about 4 weeks ago. The secondary just guesses way too much, man. They kind of get exposed. So with that being said, take it to the bank. I'm taking the Rams to win 28-21 against the Buccaneers in Monday Night Football.
Wow.
Thoughts on that? Let that marinate.
Wow.
Let that sink in.
Like I said,
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Okay, let's move on to the segments Sweeping the Nation, Take It to the Bank Parlay, and Bullets with Burg. Let's start with the parlay. Puma, what you got?
All right, so the recap, real quick, of the Take It to the Bank parlay, we have Jay, money line for the Los Angeles Rams, cha-ching. Burge, Tennessee, money line, cha-ching. And then me, I'm going with the points. I'm taking the Arizona Cardinals plus 3.5. They're getting 3.5 points. Listen, it is juiced a little bit, so you're going to have to pony up the cash if you're taking the Cardinals plus 3.5. But I think in this huge division matchup, we saw what they did a couple of weeks ago against the Seahawks. I think they cover that 3.5. Real quick to wrap up my betting segment, some of my own individual best bets that I'm going to be betting this weekend. I like the Miami Dolphins as 3.5-point favorites this week. I am blanking on who they are playing. Just bear. Any of y'all know off the top of their head who they are playing? Because I'm a fucking space cadet and forgot to write it down.
The Dolphins are playing.
Aren't you a Dolphins fan?
The Broncos.
I am. But I'm also a Scotch on the rocks and an IPA in. So bear with me on my birthday, Burge. Broncos. 3.5-point favorites. Drew Lock is dinged up. He is characterized as week to week with a shoulder rib injury, I believe. I like the Dolphins as 3.5-point favorites. I also like the over-under in this Cardinals game. Like I said earlier, it's a 57-58 total, depending on what book you get it at. Last meeting, they combined for 71 points. Now, a little teaser bit. I'm going to give you 2 teaser bets. The underdog teaser that I'm going to do, it's a standard 6-point teaser. I'm going to tease the Green Bay Packers up to 9-point underdogs. I'm going to tease the Arizona Cardinals up to 9.5. So I'm getting those guys through the key numbers of 3 and 7 into the 9 range. As underdogs, they just can't lose by those points. And my 6-point favorite teaser, I like the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to tease them down to 1.5, and I'm going to tease the Chargers down to 2.5-point favorites. Now, I didn't feel that great throwing the Chargers in that leg because they've lost a bunch of games this year by 1 score. They haven't been able to close the game out, but I think against the New York Jets, the Chargers are going to finally get it done. Those are my 2 teaser legs that I like this week as well, too.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then the final segment of the day, a little bit of bullets action with the Burge. What's your fantasy bullet, sir?
Look, I need a second to vent about my dynasty football team here.
The floor is yours, man.
Oh, my God. I needed a win this week to have a shot, really, at the playoffs. I'm playing the league favorite in the last week of the season. I needed to win 3 out of 4 going into this week. I lost this week, so now I got to win against them. Where the hell were James Conner against Cincinnati and DK Metcalf against the Rams?
Talk about it.
Irrelevant. DK Metcalf got me 2 receptions for 28 yards in a half-point PPR league. That amounts to 3.8 points. This guy has been a stud all year, even in games where the Seahawks have lost. Okay, putting up double-digit points. Especially the last 2 weeks before this, with 34 and 20. What the hell? When I need him most, he lets me down. And then James Conner, my nice prized trade deadline acquisition. Okay.
Oh.
I mean, granted, he came off a lackluster week against the Cowboys. I felt I bought low on him. He averaged double-digit points every week this year, except for week 1. And he goes and he lays a 5.8 point dud for me in this past week. And you know what? I got blown out because of that. Because of those two letting me down and not at least scoring 6 points, they let me down. I'm a huge DK Metcalf fan, and I want to think that he's going to bounce back from this, and I'm sure he will, but man, I hate him right now, and I hate James Conner, and I hate that I spent anything on him at the trade deadline to put him in my lineup. And ran.
Now, Burge, real quick, when you say you bought low on James Conner, what did you give up to get him?
There was a little bit of fat in the trade to make salaries work, because in Dynasty you have to manage your salary cap.
Right. Yep.
So there was a little bit of fat in there, but I essentially gave up a second-round draft pick in the rookie draft to get him, which is not bad.
Buy low?
Yes, because I mean, yes, if you're a stud running back, he's also a $93 contract against a $440 cap. So there's a lot that weighs into that decision. Yes, it's a buy low.
Fair enough. Keep in mind, I'm an idiot when it comes to Dynasty, so just keep that in mind.
There's a whole lot that goes into it. And I had 2 other second-round picks in that draft based on other trades that I had made, so it really was me basically giving pennies to get him.
Okay.
To hopefully put me over the top going forward, especially
because
I was without Clyde Edwards-Helaire this week. And I benched my boy Chase Edmonds for James Conner, and Chase Edmonds in a timeshare outscored the starting running back for the 9-0 Steelers. That's what it comes down to right now. So I'm a little pissed off.
Now,
anyway,
DK Metcalf, he's getting Patrick Peterson this week. Are we gonna have to do a welfare check on you on Sunday? Or Thursday, I should say. Like, are you going to?
I just hope I don't need to rely on him as much as I needed to rely on him this week with my bye weeks. That's what it comes down to.
Gotcha. Okay.
If he can get me 3 receptions for 30 yards and put in a touchdown, I'm happy.
You're talking to a fellow DK Metcalf manager in full point PPR. You're speaking my language.
Just get me a touchdown, I'm happy.
Perfect.
But anyways, moving on from my rant here, because I needed to get that off my chest, because that really hurt me. That was the only downside to this week of the NFL for me, was my fantasy team not performing, and I'll take that because my Patriots won. Anyways, moving forward, fantasy lock for the week. You got to go with Dalvin Cook here. Playing against a Dallas defense that's reeling. Guy gets the rock 30 times a game. He still put up 96 yards against a stout Bears defense this past week. Give me Dalvin Cook here. I got him on one of my teams. He's got to be good for 15 to 20 points for you guys this week. Getting in the end zone at least once, if not twice. Involved in the passing game. You give me him. Also, another low-key lock that I'm going to go with here. And I call it low-key because it could go either way based on how this offense works. Christian Kirk against a terrible Seattle Seahawks defense. Obviously, he was not really involved this past week against the Bills. Better secondary there in Buffalo. But give me Christian Kirk here to get in the end zone against the Seattle Seahawks and to put up a decent day. He's had some good weeks with Kyler Murray, getting into the end zone. So give me Christian Kirk here as a low key lock for the week, just based on the matchup. Now, one last thing before we get to your lineup questions here, Jay and Puma. Top waiver wire ad of the week. I wonder if you guys might be able to guess where I'm going to go with this one.
Top waiver wire, huh?
It's based on an injury that occurred this week.
Well, that's really narrowing it down since so many injuries happened last week.
It's offensive side of the ball.
Oh, thank
Running
you
back?
for that. That's the only thing.
Quarterback, baby.
Is it Jameis Winston?
It is Jameis Winston, baby.
Jameis.
Oh, crab legs himself.
Hey,
Dude.
eat a W.
Dude, they need a W. He's got all the weapons there in New Orleans to come in and succeed. The only thing that scares me a little bit with this top waiver wire ad is how much Taysom Hill is going to be involved in the backfield down there in New Orleans. He could be in there. They could let him throw the ball more than they have been with Drew Brees at the helm. But Jameis Winston, it seems like Drew Brees' injury is significant, and he's going to miss multiple weeks going forward. So Jameis Winston last year in Tampa Bay balled out, with Mike Evans. Granted, he threw over 30 interceptions, but that's only minus 2 points in the fantasy world. So
It's fine. He got LASIK surgery. He can see now.
yeah, well, maybe he rejuvenates his career down there in New Orleans now with this opportunity, and I like him, as a solid. If you need a quarterback, a bye week filler, you got an injury, or you just have that kind of that middle of the road quarterback, you want to jet for some upside. Jameis Winston is my guy. Lineup questions. Let's go.
All right, question 1. You ready for this? So first of all, Stephon Diggs is on a bye, so I got to find a receiver to fill a spot. I got Kenny Galladay on the bench, which I've not been high on lately. So do I go out and put a waiver claim in for T. Higgins or Hollywood Brown?
Oh, give me T. Higgins there.
T.
And to be honest with you,
over Galladay as well, because Galladay's been sucking it up.
Galladay may not even play. He's been injured.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been injured a lot in the last few weeks. Give me T. Higgins. He seems to have something there with Joe Burrow, and absolutely over Hollywood Brown. I'm not trusting Lamar Jackson to figure out how to pass the ball. So yeah, T. Higgins there, and then kind of play it by ear as to how the injury plays out as Sunday approaches. But T. Higgins is I'd consider starting him if I had him on my team now.
The other one being, do I start Aaron Rodgers against the Indianapolis defense, or do I start Jared Goff against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense? Aaron Rodgers, right?
You have to go Aaron Rodgers there. You can't put your faith in Jared Goff.
Yeah, but that
Jared
defense
Goff
is good though, man.
Regardless, it's Aaron Rodgers. If you have him on your team without a better option like a Russell Wilson or a Kyler Murray, or I'll even go as far as to say Josh Allen at this point. But if you have him on your team, you got to start him. I would never bench Aaron Rodgers for Jared Goff, regardless of the matchup. You gotta count on Aaron Rodgers that he's gonna throw at least 2 touchdowns, 250 yards. You got a high floor with Aaron Rodgers. Jared Goff, you're shooting for the ceiling on that, and you got to hope he's gonna have himself a day.
All right, so I just put my waiver in for T. Higgins, and I'm dropping Mr. Edmonds. Thank you so much for that advice as well.
Hey, it worked out for a couple of weeks. Hey,
what?
Don't bash me for that one.
I'm gonna back Burge real quick. I still think Chase Edmonds is the better running back in that Arizona backfield. I don't know why they're trying to go into a two-headed monster with Kenyon Drake. He had a costly fumble. He had a couple of costly penalties. But for the duration of the season, to the eye test, Chase Edmonds has looked like the better running back in the league. Not the league, but at least on that team. So I think Chase Edmonds should get a little bit more run than what he gets right now.
If I'm not mistaken, I think both Edmonds and Drake are up for contracts at the end of this season. And Drake is definitely going to try to command a payday down there. And it wouldn't surprise me if next year, I don't know if your league is keeper or not, or redraft or what have you, but I could see Chase Edmonds being the lead back down there in Arizona next year.
I think so, too. I definitely know Kenyon Drake got hit with the transition tag this year. And in the offseason, he was talking about how he's going to win people fantasy leagues. Well, you haven't done shit, homeboy. Jay, you have any more fantasy questions?
I'm done. It's all you.
All right. Well, Burge, real quick, I like the Jameis Winston top waiver wire ad. I put in a claim for Michael Pittman, but if I was quarterback needy, I would have gone with him.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Winston under center, I think you're going to see a little bit more of an uptick in production with Emmanuel Sanders, just because he is a down the field burner. So I definitely like that call. Fantasy wise, dude, I had a rough week last week.
All right, like
every move I made was the wrong one. I benched T. Higgins for Giovanni Bernard. I benched, I benched DJ Moore. The one time I benched DJ Moore, he goes off. I think I benched him for Chase Edmonds, which, I mean, whatever. It is what it is. I needed a little bit more help at running back. But where do you... Quarterback-wise, I have Deshaun Watson, but I also have Tua Tagovailoa on my bench. Going against New England, they're at home. It's a dome. Like, do we like Deshaun Watson this week? Back in the confines of Houston against this New England defense, or would you pivot to a Tagovailoa or another waiver wire quarterback this week? I'm also asking that because I have him stacked with Will Fuller, so that's going to affect my lineup decisions, let's say.
So I think last week was kind of an anomaly for the Texans and Deshaun Watson, Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, the passing attack down there, just because of the weather that was going on in Cleveland last week, when they played that game. I, too, started Deshaun Watson last week. And, he kind of let me down a little bit, not to the point where I needed to vent about him because I kind of expected that going in. But Tua needs, again, to continue to show more for me. I think the floor with Deshaun Watson is there. So if your floor, you're looking at, 190 yards passing, maybe a touchdown or two, and you're going to get some rushing yards out of him, I think, as well. Tua... he's got a favorable matchup this week against the Broncos, but he's still a little bit of an unknown. We have 2 weeks of a sample size on him. Mm-hmm. I find it hard to sit Watson down, especially given how Joe Flacco had success against the Patriots secondary, and Lamar Jackson to an extent did too. I have a hard time sitting down Deshaun Watson. I put Deshaun Watson just below the top echelon of fantasy quarterbacks, the top echelon being like Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes. You put him just below that tier.
Gotcha. Waiver wire, darling. Where is your school of thought for Michael Pittman Jr.? Because a lot of consensus people and media folk have Pittman Jr. as the top waiver wire ad. At least for the wide receiver position, probably number 2 behind Jameis Winston. Do you buy into that school of thought? Do you have a different wide receiver, a different skill position player that you would put at number 2 behind Winston? Where do you fall in line?
Look, I drafted Michael Pittman in my rookie draft last year, so I'm a huge Michael Pittman Jr. fan. He's been battling injuries all year so far. Obviously, he's got a chance to be the top target there in Indianapolis. For Phillip Rivers and whoever the quarterback is going forward down there. He was almost my lock for the week as a waiver wire pickup. The last 2 weeks he's looked really good since he's come back from injury in that offense. T.Y. Hilton has obviously fallen by the wayside there. I would go with Michael Pittman there. I gotta have a hard time not bringing him up from my practice squad in my dynasty league. To try to win me some games. I'm a huge fan of him. Wasn't coming out of college, and I liked where he ended up. Phillip Rivers, say what you want about him with his interceptions and his ducks that he throws. He's still a productive fantasy quarterback. He's kind of in that lump group with the middle of the pack quarterbacks. Give me Michael Pittman there. If you're going to put in a claim for a receiver, he's probably the top one. If the only other option that I would consider at that point would be Valdez-Scantling, if he's still available in your league. A little bit of a question mark there because Lazard is coming back for Green Bay, and he was definitely the number 2 behind Adams early on before he got hurt.
Gotcha. And last question, piggybacking off the Pittman answer, just rapid fire. Would you start Pittman over T. Higgins this week in a flex? Full point PPR.
Who's Cincinnati playing again this week?
They are playing Washington in Washington.
In Washington. Indianapolis, we already talked about, has Green Bay. I like the Joe Burrow connection there with T. Higgins. And I like to think that he's going to score a touchdown with him there. And you know how I feel about Indianapolis's offense and the team in general. I'm not sold 100% on him. You know, Michael Pittman has looked good the last 2 weeks. Green Bay, you know, good team, could shut him down. You know, I would put him as a top target in the passing game there in Indianapolis. So, you know, they're going to game plan against him. So I lean T. Higgins there, but it's more of a coin flip.
Gotcha. T. Higgins, Michael Pittman over the Arizona running backs for the flex.
Oof. So you got to pick one of those two guys or a running back?
Yeah.
See, my philosophy again in fantasy is picking the running back over the wide receiver. Are you PPR full point?
Yep.
Oof, that makes it even tougher.
Right? Welcome to my life, Burge. I have Drake, I got Edmonds, I have T. Higgins, and I stand a good shot at getting Michael Pittman this week.
Probably lean T. Higgins there in that spot just because of the timeshare in Arizona with the running backs. And to be honest with you, in the running backs, if you're full point PPR, Chase Edmonds catches more balls than Kenyon Drake does. But it's hard to go against, you know, a top target for a quarterback. And I like the Joe Burrow-T. Higgins connection, and I think that's going to continue to get better.
Got it. So for people in my boat, you'd go T. Higgins, Chase Edmonds, Pittman, then Drake?
Yes.
Okay.
Full point PPR, yes. Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. That should just about wrap up all my questions for fantasy.
All right. Sounds good. Do you guys want to get to anything else before we end this podcast?
I'm good.
I'm good, man. I'm good. I got to go have some cake with the fam before my sister, hits me with the chair for taking too long.
Well, listen, why don't you go ahead and plug it up and let's call this a wrap.
All right, cool. So this episode of the pod, along with previous ones, can be found on Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, Google Podcast, Stitcher, YouTube under Pro Football Radio Podcast, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Pro Football Radio Podcast, Twitter at PFR Podcast. I'm on the Twitter machine, Brando_Puma. Jay Cheema is at Jay Cheema. Our senior contributor, Eric Burgess, is on the Twitter machine at Burge the Goalie. Be sure to get after his ass for the hill that he is dying on with Andy Reid at Burge the Goalie. Tell him that the cheeseburger takes are fine. Leave Andy alone. Like, that's where I'm sitting at right now. So get after his ass. Twitter at Burge the Goalie. Like, subscribe, download, hit us up in social media. We're definitely going to be opening this up moving forward a bit. We would love a little bit more fantasy questions for Bullets with Burge from y'all. And hopefully you guys enjoy this episode and hit us up on social media.
Wonderful. Well, that concludes podcast 68. We'll see you next week for podcast 69.
Might just have a picture of Gronk.
See you guys next week.
Via con Dios.
Peace.